A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I just wanted to do a quick book review video. I'm actually quite behind in recording my book review videos so far, which was something I was going to try to avoid this year, but alas, alack, that has not happened. But I wanted to make this particular book review video while the book is still fresh in my mind, because I have several things that I want to say about it. So recently, although I don't know when this video will go up because it's not really a time-sensitive book review video, but regardless, recently I have put up a video, the book review for We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. And in that review, I had mentioned, I believe in passing, that he is also the author of the Thursday Murder Club mystery. And I just wanted to give my opinion on that particular book, because that is the book that I'm reviewing here. I got this used. It actually came a little bit bent up to me, but that is fine. It's a nice used copy, perfectly serviceable. But this is a book that has come highly recommended. I've heard just kind of like, the funny thing is I can't point to necessarily any one person who has recommended this book. It's just kind of like that every time I know I've heard about it, it has always been overwhelmingly positive. Now, it is interesting that in the comments of the We Solve Murder, I believe it's called We Solve Murder. It's over. We Solve Murders, I believe, is the name of the book. It's up there, but I don't want to knock down everything else I have there. So, which is his most recent book, I believe. Anyway, in my review of that book, someone had mentioned in the comments that they really couldn't get into the Thursday Murder Club. I almost called it the Tuesday Murder Club, but that's more of a that's Miss Marple reference, not this one. Anyway, now at that time, I was like, well, that is interesting because, I haven't heard anything but good. I'm really, but I haven't finished the book yet myself at that point. And so I was interested in seeing what I would think about it when I finished. Now, I am not at all surprised that I have thoroughly enjoyed the humor. I really enjoyed the humor in his last book. I find him to be quite funny. One of the first things right off the bat that kind of made me laugh was, oh, and by the way, I'm just going to say in advance, there might be spoilers here. There probably will be spoilers here. So if you do not want this book spoiled, be forewarned. I will try my best not to do anything that'll give away who done it. But there might be some spoilers for other parts in this text. But I'll try not to give away the actual ending. But one of the first things that right off the bat that kind of amused me was that one of the characters asks another character, for the sake of knowing how fast the character bleeds out, what weight is that person? So the person who's asked runs her finger down the file that she's looking at, and she says, 46 kilos. And this kind of made me laugh because this is such a normal thing, which threw us both because neither of us was sure what 46 kilos was in real money. And in my head, I was thinking it must be about 23 stone. 2-to-1 was my thinking. Even as I thought that, though, I suspected I was getting it mixed up with inches and centimeters. And they check with someone else. It's more like, I think, 7 stone, 3 and a bit. Okay, I've never understood stone because I never have seen it used practically. I do actually, like at the time I read that, I couldn't remember the conversion rate for kilos and pounds. But I had to use kilos a lot at my job in the hospital because sometimes the bed wouldn't be, a lot of times the bed was in kilos if I was weighing a patient on one of the bed weights, like if we remember to tare it before we put the patient in there. So it's a 2.2, so it's like if your kilos is, for this case, 46 kilos times 2.2, that's approximately 101.2 pounds. At that time, of course, I couldn't remember. I had to remember it a little bit later, do some little math, and then get that. But that made me laugh because how many times have we had a conversion and we're like, wait, what is this? What? Oh, darn, we got to look that up. But anyway, in general, there's quite a bit decent amount of humor. The other one, because this kind of made me laugh because there was a joke when I was at school. One of our biology majors, she would say that if she took something from someone else's plate, the calories would stick to that other person's plate. So this here made me think of that and just kind of cracked me up. I actually had to stop reading and grab my mom and share it with her. Also, it was a well-known fact that there were no calories in homemade cakes. So if you ever need to use that, apparently there are no calories in homemade cakes. But there's just random bits of humor. It's just, he has an amusing style of writing. His characters have distinct voices. They're very much distinct characters. And honestly, before I head into my opinions of the mystery itself and how that's handled, it also surprised me in the fact that or I guess this is the first surprise for me, is that the way it handles certain things around aging. Because you are dealing with your 4 main characters. I mean, you have 2 other ancillary, somewhat main characters, but I'm going to talk about the 4 members of the Thursday Murder Club. And so that is Elizabeth, Joyce, let's see. I always had to look up the guys. Ron and Ibrahim. I've never actually heard it pronounced, so I'm probably mangling it. Ibrahim. So I'm going to say Ibrahim. So those are our 4 main characters, and all of them are living in, it's kind of like a senior community center. It's not quite like, it may be a retirement community, but not like a retirement home, and it's not a nursing home, but you're having people who are starting to kind of be in that, like, needing to maybe be a kind of assisted care. It doesn't feel like it's quite assisted care, but kind of like a retirement community. So most of your main characters, the 4 in that main group, they are between the ages of like 70 and 90. No one's 90 yet, but they're all like, I think in the latest you have someone who might be 88. So that's your main cast. And one of the things that, so like I said, one of the things that kind of I liked was that it addressed some of the things about aging. And one of the things that I liked was, I just wanted to turn to that page. I think it's right here. This is from Ron's point of view. Okay, here we go. So what he's said here, he's talking to someone. They're trying to block the tearing up of a cemetery. The person who owns this retirement community wants to expand, and he wants to tear up this cemetery. And, you know, the elderly people in that community are not cool about it. And so a bunch of them go and they park themselves in protest in front of the gate. They're actually keeping the diggers from going and doing it. And he, Ron's, first of all, the guy who's going to have the digging done, he kind of mocks Ron. He's like, carry on, make a speech, pretend it's the 50s or whenever you were around. But when you're done, I'm going to need access to that path to do some digging. Not today, old son, afraid not, said Ron, turning back to the crowd. We're all weak, Mr. Ventham. You can see that, right? Look at us. Give us a nudge and we topple over. That's the last you'd see of us. We're feeble, the lot of us. We're a pushover. A pushover, eh? Should be easy, but you know, there's a few people who've done a few things in their life. Am I right? There are a few people who've seen off and no disrespect, better men than you. Ron pauses and looks around at his audience. We've got soldiers here, one or two. We got teachers, we got doctors, we got people who could take you apart and people who could put you back together again. We got people who crawled through deserts, people who built rockets, people who locked up killers. In short, we got fighters. And you, with your diggers at 7:30 in the morning, have picked a fight. And I just love that little speech because sometimes it can be forgotten the lives that people have lived before, you know, they get kind of filed away as being frail or filed away. It's almost, we don't necessarily always have the respect of age that we should, but it, you know, people have lived lives and that person is still there. And it was just it was a cool little speech that I really enjoyed, just to sort of a reminder, you know, like, hey, don't discount us. We've lived life. And, you know, just because we're older now and our bodies aren't quite where they were doesn't mean you should discount us. That was the more upbeat thing that I really enjoyed in the addressing of age. But there were a couple things also in its addressing of age that were more poignant that they mentioned. One of the previous members of the Thursday Murder Club, she is dying, and that's no spoiler. That's something that's made clear very early on. Really isn't, it really isn't a spoiler. But the dealing with that for the characters, watching a friend, you know, passing on, which could happen even, of course, outside of age. But, of course, as you age, there's more people that are going to be passing on, and honestly, less people around who were there when you were young, that you shared life, you know, a level of life experience with. I love the way they addressed memory here. Memory was the bogeyman that stalked Cooper Chase. Forgetfulness, absent-mindedness, muddling up names. What did I come in here for? The grandchildren would giggle at you. The sons and daughters would joke too, but keep a watchful eye. Every so often, you would wake at night in cold dread. Of all the things to lose one's mind, let them take a leg or a lung. Let them take anything before they take that. Before you become poor Rosemary or poor Frank, catching the last glimpses of the sun and seeing them for what they were. Before there were no more trips, no more games, no more murder clubs. Before there was no more you. I worked in a nursing home for my first job when I was in high school and through college. And so, and also then I worked for 8 years after that. Actually, I think by the time I was done, it was 10 years. Anyway, as an RN. And so in the hospital, you also see, of course, people who are older, people who have dementia. And that fear of losing oneself is so real as you get older. And it was a very poignant insight into the fears as you age. And this isn't necessarily an older author. I mean, if you see the picture of him here, which makes the insight even nicer, that he took the time to think about how these characters, not only are they dealing with the murder mystery, but there is that extra layer of, needing to still feel like they are them, and hoping against hope they're not going to lose who they are as they watch others around them lose who they are. Actually, this particular character whose point of view we're in, her husband is in the process of he's at that point where he misremembers, and he'll talk about a daughter he never had, who actually, the person he's misremembering was a wife who had passed many years before. So he writes things that, don't make sense, that when he thinks he's writing his archaeological books from when he was younger. And this particular here, sometimes they still play chess. Elizabeth once spent a month in a safe house somewhere near East German border, babysitting the Russian chess grandmaster and later defector, Yuri Tetchovich. That's a terrible mispronunciation. Anyway, she remembers him crying tears of joy when he saw how well she played. Elizabeth had lost none of her skill, but Stephen beats her every time, and with an elegance that makes her swoon. Though they are playing less and less now, she realizes. Perhaps they have played their last game. Has Stephen toppled his last king? Please no. And yeah, so it's just, her arm is around her Stephen in the darkness. Can he feel it? Does Penny hear her? Have they both already disappeared, or are they only real for as long as she chooses to believe they're real? Elizabeth clings on a little tighter and holds on to the day for as long as she is able. For me, those were the unexpected little gems, those moments of poignancy that had nothing to do with the murder mystery, that were just little bits of poignancy about aging. Now, let's get into mystery itself. I've talked about the humor. I've talked about the poignancy of dealing with age and the loss which comes with age. More inspiring, of course, the Ron speech of, don't discount us, we might have lost some of our strength, but we're still who we are. And then, of course, Elizabeth's discussion about losing who you are, losing your memory, losing loved ones, losing yourself. But then we get down to the actual reason why you're here for the Thursday Murder Club and the actual mystery part of it. I thought until you hit, and I don't think this is a spoiler, a lot of murder mysteries have a second murder. After the second murder, I honestly kind of feel like it starts falling apart. I feel like there's a certain point, now this is his first novel, but I feel like there's a certain point where the author doesn't really know how to end it. He kind of just starts feeling like he starts adding in red herrings to the point where it's almost ridiculous. Because, okay, anyone who reads a lot of murder mysteries knows you have to suspend a level of disbelief, But there is a sort of unwritten contract between the reader and the author that, first of all, you expect to have a certain level of clues and you expect it to make sense. You want to be able to look at it and be like, oh yeah, I can see where that came from. And it was well set up. Or at the very least that you don't feel like, whoa, where did that come from? And I don't mean like where did that come from? I just couldn't figure it out. But like where did that come from? That was not well set up. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like where did that come from in this? Too often it was in that latter camp of that really wasn't well set up. I felt like the author got a little bit too caught up in maybe the fun of setting up red herrings. Maybe he didn't know quite how to end it. Maybe he just got a little bit too, a little bit too clever for his own good. He's no Agatha Christie. And I just felt that by the end, the actual ending and solution ended up feeling contrived to me. And this plot would have been a lot better if it had been simpler. If the solution had been simpler. There were just too many, even something as simple as one character trying to set up another character. And this has nothing to do with the murder itself. It was a little side thing. One character trying to set up another character in a romantic semi-side plot. It wasn't even a side plot because it wasn't well set up. There was no build up to it. You never had Donna thinking, oh gosh, I think that Chris would be good with my mom. You could see Donna slowly making changes in Chris's life, but it seemed almost like maybe she was getting interested herself, but she never thinks about her mom. She never brings up her mom, really. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, okay, hey, look, now it looks like Chris and her mom are interested in each other after, like, a random meeting that Donna sets up. It was almost a small microcosm of some of the issues that I had with other things that are set up, or rather not set up, in the mystery itself. That little side issue of Donna trying to set up her mom and Chris together should have somehow been set up a little bit better. It should have been like, I shouldn't have been, as a reader, caught by surprise when randomly the mother is brought in and randomly Chris is suddenly interested. It felt like it was kind of sloppily handled. And that was some of the issue that I had with some of these red herrings that were brought in, and then they would tie up, the author would tie up the red herring, but it was in a very unsatisfactory manner. You'd be like, oh, see, that explains that weird thing about that character. Okay, but it kind of just didn't feel... There were too many of them. There were too many of these weird little side things. There are too many coincidences. And I don't mind a few coincidences in a murder mystery. That you need something to happen that gives you a red herring, whether it is a coincidence, whether it is someone hiding something, no matter what it is. But it just didn't feel like the red herrings were well set up. It didn't feel like the explanations for the red herrings were well set up. And it didn't feel like the twist at the ending was earned. It didn't feel like it was not satisfactory. So even some of the ways in which Elizabeth's husband, Stephen, some of the ways that he handles some of Stephen's memory issues, it ends up being inconsistent by the end. Because for most of the book, it's kept consistent. And then at the very end, there is a random inconsistency in his memory issue. Or suddenly, with no reason, a character who has really been on the periphery without any hint that they might be deeper involved, they're brought in. No setup. They're just like, in last minute, this thing that you never heard about ends up leading to the solution of one of the murders. And it's just like, it felt like a break of, honestly, the level of trust you expect between the contract between the murder mystery author and the reader. I ended up feeling like it was sloppy. It was a sloppy ending. So on the one hand, I can see why people at least like the beginning of the book. And honestly, the characterizations of your main characters never really falters. I still like these characters. I still feel like they have good, distinctive voices, and I enjoy spending time with them, which is why I'll keep the book. But it'll never be my favorite book. I might reread it, but I'm never going to particularly like the ending. And I'm always going to think it kind of drops off after that second murder. There are still great points of insight, but as you realize that a lot of these things either go nowhere, but in a way that's not like clever. Yeah, it was I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed by the ending, but I would still recommend the book for the characters, if not for the mystery. Just don't expect Agatha Christie. Which, I mean, I know it's a unfair high bar to raise, but yeah, I mean, I don't even mind if there's a few, like I said, a few coincidences in a murder mystery, but you have to sell me on it. You have to make me believe that there is a world where all these coincidences would exist and not have it feel just like red herrings for the sake of red herrings. And then it just kind of gets ridiculous. Anyway, that is my review for Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. Until the end, I was going to give this, well, at the very beginning, I was like, oh, this is going to be a 5-star book. I'm really enjoying the characters. This is great. By the time I started seeing more red herrings pop up, I was like, oh, this is about 4-star. By the end, I almost rated a 3-star. I ended up going up to 3.5 because I did really enjoy, a good portion of the book. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed. Not gonna lie. But for the characters themselves, worth a read. Just don't expect a stellar ending. And I mean, you might disagree, but I read a lot of classic murder mysteries, and yeah, I think that I hope that some of his later mysteries in this particular series fix that particular fault in the writing. I don't remember that particularly being a fault in We Solve Murders, but also We Solve Murders had kind of like a, how Tommy and Tuppence or some of Agatha Christie's like spy thriller ones, they have I have a different expectation for that kind of book. And We Solve Murders, while there is, there are murders that need to be solved, it has kind of that international, like there is someone pulling all the strings, almost spy thriller type feeling to it. So I have a different level of what I expect from that kind of book than what I expect of a more classically set up mystery where I kind of expect some of the same rules that I do from like an Agatha Christie or other Golden Age authors. And I got the feeling that that was what he was trying to emulate. Whereas with We Solve Murders, I got definitely a different kind of feel. So he might have done the same thing in We Solve Murders, and I don't remember it because my expectations were different. And I'm going to have to reread that with new eyes and see if he does the same thing in that, and I just didn't notice it because my expectations were different, or if he has improved since this book. And I can't really tell you for sure because I don't remember. But yes, 3.5 stars. I would recommend for the characters, not necessarily for the murder mystery. Okay, thank you very much for joining me. Have a very wonderful day, and I will see you the next time. God bless. Bye-bye.
Books keep coming home with me. Piles so tall, they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.